Smith of Tears for Fears, or formerly of Tears for Fears, now gone solo. And tell me something why you chose the standard to play an acoustic set.
Well, I correct one bit because I still am a member of Tears for Fears.
Okay,
We actually
sure.
still do play together.
Great.
But proximity to my home is as good an explanation as any. I was looking for somewhere that was very intimate. I mean, with Tears, obviously we play big venues.
Right.
And the solo record I made, called Halfway Pleased, is a very intimate record and talks about very personal subjects. Doesn't really work in a big setting. I mean, that's why I do this music on the side, because sort of grand music is not all I like to do. And so I was looking for something that was more intimate, low-key, not far to go.
Right.
And basically Charlton, who I play with, his wife, suggested the standard because she worked with this other artist who played here and thought the vibe was great. And so I came down to have a look, and I said, well, I'll give it a go. And that was last year. I did a month then, and now I'm back for 2 months, because once you actually take over a space, so you sort of make it your own, and you do, I mean, basically I didn't want to do one night. I said, if I'm going to do it, I'll do it for a month.
Right. And
then we'll see where that leads. Because one night, you don't feel it that much, it's just doing a gig.
Yeah.
The idea is to try and make it like it's my living room, so I feel comfortable in it, and so people get that feeling of they're coming to your space. And then they asked me back again this year. They just asked me back for another month, so now I'm doing 2 months, and you know, it suits this music, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I noticed that you released your new album under a Commons? Creative Commons, yeah. Can you tell me more about that?
Well, Creative Commons is just this, it's a way of not having to hire a lawyer, is the simplest way of putting it. It's a bunch of guys that are very smart that got together and decided that, you know, for any art form, and this applies to music, painting, writing, whatever it may be, there's obviously been a lot of court cases in the last 5-6 years of people suing, artists suing someone for using their music or their artwork or their writing for something they didn't approve. So what Creative Commons does is it has this format where you can pre-approve what people can do with your work. So in my case, with my Creative Commons license, and it'll tell you on the CD, is you can use my music for anything you want as long as you're not making money out of it.
Oh, I see.
So as long as it's not for commercial gain, you can use it on a home movie, you can use it on a charity movie. If you're not making any commercial gain from it, then it's fine. So it's basically giving people a heads up so that when they look at the CD, they can go, well, I'm allowed to use this. And all it does, it gives you, as an artist, you've laid down the ground rules, and people can then go, well, I'm already allowed to do this, I have permission. So they don't have to go through all the steps of trying to get your permission, because you've already given it.
Right, that's
So
good.
it's basically being able to promote your music quietly without people having to go to record companies or anyone else and getting permission to use what you do.
Did you have something specific in mind when you went that route?
No, only that I've been through so many occasions where I've met people where they said, you know, for this we were going to use your music for it, but we went to Universal or EMI Publishing or whoever it may have been, and we had to go through 10 steps of those people before we could even get to you to get your permission. And there are so many levels you have to go through to get permission to use a recorded work, that I feel setting the rules out first was an easier thing to do. And Creative Commons is a fantastic way to be able to do that. And it's available to anyone. And again, like I said, the fantastic thing about it also is it saves anyone, because it's free.
Right.
You're not paying Creative Commons for this, it's free. So it saves you the hassle of hiring a lawyer at all. You can just stick it on your CD and say you can use it for this.
Can you talk about some of the social media, like MySpace or Twitter? Are you on any of those, or how do you?
Most of them.
Most of them?
Yeah. The Twitter thing I'm just getting used to, because it's sort of to me, like the Twitter thing is sort of a different language, so you
Mhm.
kind of got to get used to that. I've been on MySpace and Facebook for a long time, both personally and for business.
Right.
You know, the MySpace thing I tend to feel is a younger demographic.
Mhm.
Although having said that, you know, there are some older people on it, and also people tend to move on. The thing about social mediums is people tend to go from one, we're bored with that, and move on to the next one. And Facebook came along. I felt that the way Facebook was set up was better for me. Yeah, I mean, I'm on Facebook quite a bunch. Actually, I'm on all of them quite a few times a day. I'm guessing Facebook more than most, but I check into MySpace a few times a day, Facebook a bunch of times, Twitter a few times. You know, I think the reason I'm just getting used to Twitter is normally I'm not used to having a limit.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in the middle of something, you're like, and then it goes minus. And I'm like, now I got to condense what I was just trying to say.
Right. Yeah.
But that's why it's just a different way of thinking. You've got to be more economical with, you know, language. So.
Do you consider yourself more tech savvy because of these things, or have you always been?
No, I think we've always. I mean, I've always been relatively tech savvy. I think. I mean, I remember. I wasn't into it growing up. I think when the internet became available to all, I got into it. When it became simple to use.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember the days of BBC computers when it was just all text, and there was no graphics or anything, and that I found kind of annoying. Once AOL came along, and I remember I was living in New York at the time, and I remember the next day I bought shares in AOL because I was like, this is just fantastic.
Right,
this is a whole new thing. It's user friendly. It's great. You know, it's the internet version of the Macintosh computer. And yeah, I mean, I guess I've followed most of it. I mean, a lot of new stuff like Twitter, different things like that. I'm not ahead of the curve. I'm normally behind it, just because of
Right.
you know how many hours are there in a day to be involved in.